What's going on, guys? Today's video is actually a podcast interview that I did for the Online Hustlers podcast with Esteban Andrade, and it's one of my favorite podcast interviews that I have done. And the reason why is because I really go in depth into some of the strategies and tactics that I use to scale my business from ground zero to $2 million in 18 months, but also the strategies that I'm using with my coaching clients to help them scale their businesses to 10 to 15 deals per month as well. These are a lot of higher level strategies like tactics and strategies around building your team, but I also go into some topics that I really haven't discussed publicly, like the separation from myself and my business partner and my stance on partnerships. So there's really a lot of golden information in this podcast interview. I really go deep into some of the exact strategies that we're using. So I hope you enjoy it. And if you do enjoy it, click the like button and the subscribe button and stay tuned for more videos like this.
All right, guys, so we are live. As you all know, this is a exclusive Facebook group that you get to see specific people that have done really incredible things in the industry. For this specific time, I really want to make sure that I am bringing someone that has helped people that I absolutely know that are currently crushing it. They are part of they're part of the program. They all do great things in the Washington State area, and the wholesale buy houses just like a lot of you would. So today I'm gonna have James Hodges. I actually have him right here, and as you see right there, James is part of Game Changers. He's actually the creator of REI Game Changers, and really in this episode that we're going to be running here in just short today, we will be having James, who is a guy that I admire because I think he does different strategies or different type of coaching than any other coach out there, but he also has a really good track record with his own REI wholesaling business. That's why I want to get him in this show. Here we have James. How you doing, man?
What's up, Esteban? How's it going, man?
Everything's going well. For some reason, Facebook is not allowing me to share. Like it actually blocked me just now. But we're gonna have it for YouTube at this moment, and I'm gonna have to share it. So let's start here the episode of the Online Hustlers podcast, and we'll learn more about you and how you can actually teach and help the audience with different actionable things, actionable steps, really a huge added value for the wholesalers and flippers investing business, because I think that what you have to bring is going to be huge. All right.
Awesome.
Thank you, James. Like, give me 1 second. I'm going to run here for our intro. All right.
Mic check.
I'm good.
Mic check. Mic check.
You can read about success all day long, but if you don't put in the work, the mindset, execution, and the hustle behind your vision, it just remains a dream.
When everything goes wrong, you have to take all the responsibility.
We uncover what high-level entrepreneurs, business owners do to rise up from hustling daily.
So do what you feel passionate about. Take chances.
The world becomes your library to help you to become better at your craft.
Join me as I share with you actionable tips to help you grow your business, learn skills, and help you level up in your self-development journey.
Your #1 spot for business and personal growth is the Online Hustlers Podcast with your host, Esteban Andrade.
Hey, what's going on, guys? In the Online Hustlers podcast, we have the REI marketing and conversion episodes. As you all know, you've been hearing these episodes. We've been bringing in players, people that are in the field, people that either have a really great added value towards this business. We are bringing in today James Hodges. James Hodges is the creator of REI Game Changers. He is also a real estate investor. He he's a wholesaler as well, and he runs one of the most valuable Facebook groups of about 8,000 members on Facebook. And he also works with our members. He also works with some of our clients that in the Washington state. And the things that I've been able to see from him is the reason why I'm actually bringing him in today. James, man, how's everything going, man? Please tell us exactly who James Hodges is and why I love so bad that you were able to visit beautiful country of Colombia as well.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me on today, Esteban. So if I sound a little bit weird, I've got a little bit of a nasal issue going on here, but super pumped to be here. Again, as you mentioned, my name is James Hodges, and really what my passion is right now, I help wholesalers and house flippers scale up their business, really grow their business. Have a company called REI Game Changers, and really REI Game Changers is all about helping real estate investors scale in the most efficient way possible. So, I built my own wholesaling company, built it from ground zero to $2 million in 18 months, and came from a place where I was doing $17,000 per year before that. So, yeah, excited to be here, man.
Oh man, that's a big change. Going $17,000 per year all the way to running a business that made 2 million in 18 months. Like that's like a year and a half, right?
Yeah,
that's very remarkable.
We hit so I hit 1.1 million in 12 months. So in the first 12 months of wholesaling, hit 1.1 million, and then by 18 months hit 2 million.
So most people actually in this game can't even get their first deal like into like 6-8 months in. Most people don't even continue after the first year, and they just give up. Really, like when you were doing that your first year, there was something that you probably did different, and we're gonna discuss about it. And you just mentioned efficiency. You mentioned efficiency, and just having a more sustainable business as a whole. A lot of people, they just are always playing the never-ending acquisition game, which is if you stop your marketing today, you're not going to have anything tomorrow. So how are we seeing James Hodges like a few years ago, like where you made the decision of going into this business and had a remarkable first 18 months?
Yeah, so you want me to tell how I got started in the game, what that initial journey looked like?
Yeah, I mean, let's talk about like why were you so different to a majority of the people that are trying to hustle the way inside this business, like when you were growing at your first year? Like what is it that made you what was your genius that really allowed you to scale that way?
It's a great question, and there's a couple of reasons why I believe that I was able to scale so quickly. Hitting 1.1 million in my first year. There's not a ton of people that hit that kind of run rate in their first 12 months. Like you said, a lot of people, it may take 6-8 months to get their first deal. Some people may quit before that. So I had studied marketing. I had studied marketing for a couple of years before I started wholesaling. So I understood marketing principles, but one of the biggest variables, and it's, I've scaled now in the past 3 years, scaled 2 businesses in 2 separate industries to multiple 7 figures. And it's a very similar formula to scaling in any industry. So one of the biggest things that helped me. So first off, I understood marketing. I had some sales skills that I had developed from being a personal trainer, selling fitness offers over the phone, selling fitness offers in a gym. So I had some communication skills that I think helped me early on. And I understood marketing. I understood the marketing game. When I first started, I understood that I was going to have to do an insane amount of volume in order to get my first deal. So I came out of the gate super hot. So I actually got my first deal 3 weeks after I started wholesaling. So when I committed to start wholesaling, I got my first deal 3 weeks after starting, and I wasn't guessing either. So the key that's allowed me to scale 2 businesses in different industries to multiple 7 figures in 3 years was I go out and find people who are ahead of me, who have a formula, a proven formula, and I go plug into their network. I go plug into proximity with that person, and I follow a proven formula whenever I'm trying to scale up anything initially. Because if I'm trying to learn a new skill set, I want to go find somebody who's mastered that skill set and just plug into the proven process and formula that's already working. And then I'll make my own tweaks and adjustments after that, but I don't need to reinvent the wheel here. So that's what I did initially, got my first 3 deals. And then after that, I reinvested that money into higher level coaching. So I invested into a $25,000 mastermind right after I closed my first 3 deals, right afterwards. It's because I wanted to get to 7 figures in a year. And I knew the only way possible, if I was going to get to 7 figures, was to get around other people who were at 7 figures already. And so I got in proximity with them. And that took me to about 50, 60K per month. But what really shifted things for me was when I hired a marketing mentor who was at an 8-figure level. His name's Frank Kern. And I worked with him one-on-one in a private client relationship. And what he taught me about marketing catapulted me to the next level, because I went from making—
You see Frank Kern?
Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. So Frank's one of the OGs in the direct response marketing world. So I decided to sign up with Frank because I wanted to find out how 8-figure business people thought, how high-level marketers thought. So I signed up to work with him, and it was a massive investment to work with him. But in the first 8 months of my business, I did $380,000. Over the next 4 months, right after I hired Frank, I did $720,000 to hit 1.1 million in the first year, because I was able to start thinking like a high-level business owner. And then right after that, over the next 6 months, did another million to hit 2 million by the 18-month mark. So but I literally invested almost 6 figures into mentorship and coaching in my first year.
Okay, so you actually had a big shift. I want to say in systems and mindset, or was it like the skill set that you learned from him? Because going at such acceleration after your first year being almost 400K, but then the next 6 months is completely different. It must be because a specific set of processes that you learn from these people, or what is that really changed in your company that you started to really operate as a high-level business owner?
You know, it wasn't as much tactical as it was learning how to think like a high-level business owner and a high-level marketer. So it wasn't as much tactical. Like, it wasn't, hey, he didn't give me some new SMS marketing strategy that nobody knew about. It wasn't so much that. And I don't think that's really what gives people the competitive advantage in this space. I don't think that tactics are necessarily the competitive advantage. It's what you do with it, how you make decisions on a day-to-day basis. So I learned how to really just think and strategize like he did. So when I thought about marketing, I was viewing it through the lens of how he would view things, because he was looking at all of our metrics. He was looking at all the ins and outs of our business, and he was able to help us make business decisions really quickly that helped us to catapult at an extremely fast rate, because we were doing things that were working, but we were also doing a ton of things that weren't really producing fruit. They really weren't producing a super high ROI. So what Frank did, he helped us narrow our focus and condense our focus to the highest ROI activities and only focusing on those high ROI activities.
I love that. Now we're talking about a different thinking. In this game, a lot of people start thinking, what's my cost per lead? What's my cost per contract? What is it that the numbers that I can get as cheap as possible? But really, we're not thinking like, what's your return of investment, or what's your return on advertising spend? Okay. And I believe, because Frank Kern he runs 8-figure businesses. Now teaching you this, you're able to bring it into the REI and wholesaling side. Like, you're able to mold the same principles and the same type of teachings into the wholesaling side. So people don't have to go and call Frank Kern, who definitely can charge you tons of money, because now there's someone that absolutely was able to crack the code on how to think in this high level way. And I think that's one of the biggest things that I saw as soon as they started, as soon as Alex and Victor from I Will Buy House started joining. I saw how the whole checking structure that we had every time was changing. Like, the questions were different. The documentation that they would bring was more geared towards ROI, more about the efficiency. Is this kind of like, am I getting to the right place?
Yeah. I mean, Alex and Victor, you mentioned them a couple of times. When they started working with us, they were doing about 3 deals a month and averaging $50,000 to $60,000 a month. And they were just here for our Game Changers Legacy quarterly gathering. And now, so like that was June of 2020 when they joined with us. The last 2 months, they've done $400,000 in their business. So a large part of what helped them make that big jump was these type of things that I'm talking about: learning how to think differently, learning how to make decisions differently in the business, and learning really how to think like a high level business owner instead of just hustling to get that next deal. It's really like, let's build a true business out of this. But one of the big things is, that we focus on is marketing and putting marketing systems in place. And Alex and Victor have really just latched hold of those frameworks and the thinking that we teach and prescribe in REI Game Changers, and they've just taken off and run with it to where they've taken it and run with it as fast as anybody that I've seen.
I love that. So for the listeners in here, I really want them to get a really nitty-gritty type of value from listening to you, from what you have to say. Let's start actually running a business at a high level. Start actually running a business like how a business should be running, to really unlock that huge potential instead of just relying so much tactic and hustle. We should rely on this. So what would you say are the top things that in order to start thinking and making your business run at a high level, that are the key principles to start operating that way?
Yeah, so there's really a sequence when it comes to scaling. And most people, when they start working with us, for instance, they're a solo operator. They're doing 1 to 2 deals a month, around that level. Sometimes a little bit more, like Alex and Victor were doing around 3 deals a month. And so in that place, we've got to take somebody, and there's basically like a hierarchy of needs that we follow. So initially, we've got to get marketing and sales systems in place to where we've got marketing systems in place that are leveraged, meaning leverage means that these systems run without us having to be the driver behind whether those leads come in or not. So if you're the one sitting on a cold call dialer, if you're the one texting, if you're the one having to like manage everything, that's not a leverage system. We've got to get a leverage marketing system in place to where it's scalable, because most people are utilizing so a lot of people are utilizing either unleveraged marketing systems, or they're utilizing marketing channels that aren't really scalable. And I believe that at least what we teach, we like to have at least 2 marketing channels going. We like to make sure that eventually they've got a combination of inbound and outbound. Inbound provide super high quality leads a lot of the times, if you're doing it right. Outbound provides control of the volume. You can turn the dial at any given point in time and control exactly how much volume you have. Because when we're building a business, we've got to understand, like we've got to be able to turn the dials, and we've got to be able to predictably bring in the results that we want to bring in.
What are some examples of those leveraged those leveraged marketing that you can?
Yeah, so leverage marketing. So it basically means that it's scalable. So there's a lot of different marketing channels that we can use. So SMS, for instance, if you're the one sitting there doing the texting, though, that's not leveraged. A form of, if SMS were to be leveraged, you have somebody else who's doing the SMS for you. You have agents who are doing the SMS for you, and systems that they're following to be able to scale that marketing channel. So that would be leveraged instead of you. If you're doing it, it's not leveraged. Getting somebody else to do it would be creating leverage in that marketing channel. Cold calling, everybody knows they can hire cold call agents versus you sitting on the dialer doing the dialing, because you're limited by your time. And if you start to leverage that marketing channel, now you can get other people and leverage their time, so it's scalable. And then PPC, it's somewhat scalable. You can scale it within a city, you can scale within statewide, you can scale nationwide. Lots of ways to scale that. Facebook, radio advertising. Basically, like, can we turn a dial and get in front of a larger audience if we want to?
Would it still be leverage if you have to manage those people? Like, for example, you still have agents calling or doing text, but you still have to manage those individuals. Would that still be considered leverage?
It is, because it's not you doing the activity. So if you want to create the highest form of leverage, then you would have a manager who's managing that, because then it really doesn't require any of your time. So that's like the highest form. But at least in the initial phase, we want to get the person out of the frontline operation seats. So the first frontline operation seats that we typically want to get somebody out of is the lead generation component. So I don't want somebody driving for dollars. I don't want them the one actually having to do the driving for dollars. I don't want them to have to do the actual lead generation. I want it to be those activities to be leveraged.
Awesome. So leverage marketing. Number one.
Yeah, cool. And then second step is we got to have sales systems, like a proven sales process, documented sales system that can be systematized and somebody else can be plugged into. So most people, or a lot of people, they don't really have like a documented way of doing things. They don't have a systematized process that somebody else can be plugged into. They're really just kind of winging it on every deal, and it's all up in their head. So then we want to make sure that we have a systemized sales process that covers lead management and follow-up. So from the second the lead comes in, what's happening in between that time and the person actually getting scheduled an appointment. So we've got a documented system that we can plug somebody into. And then we've got an acquisitions process as well that is systematized to where it is a standardized operating process to where we're doing the same thing on every deal. We don't have to think about what we're doing. It's documented and optimized to where we're converting above 20% closing rate on any appointments that we're going to.
Okay, so for example, my team, they use, I get them onboarded into the follow-up and sales systems using ClickUp. I mean, you can do so many things. You can
Yeah.
use so many things in order to get it. But I have ClickUp and I have a membership site. Once they complete a series of tasks on ClickUp and they are able to go through the industry training, principles of following up, principles of sales, you know, how to run your introductory call, your first call ever with a seller. What would you do what you have to do in the first seconds in order to leave an everlasting impression? All these things is documented through videos, and it's put together into a ClickUp list. It also redirects to a membership site. What would you recommend? What would you recommend people to you know, in order to systematize this?
Yeah, I think that it sounds like you've started to do that for sure. You know, I think process maps are really good. The more visual we can make it. So like when we're instructing an employee or team member to do something, we want to tell them what to do. We want to have a visual. We want to have literally a written out process to where it's like step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, documented, written out. Yeah, an SOP. Video is preferential, demonstrating what it looks like to implement this process. And then we've got to remind them as well. So now once we tell them, once we write it out, once we've got a visual representation of what this looks like, now we hold them accountable to that standard operating procedure.
Yeah, so visual, a lot of people learn visually. Like I like actually creating flow maps, just like you say. So some people will learn on the go through visual, audio, or just different type of learning efforts. And so I like to have mind centered in something that most people would be able to capture and absorb real fast. And those visual aspects are huge. Like just using, for example, Lucid Chart in order to paint a roadmap of what the sales process looks like, or paint the roadmap of what the follow-up process looks like. And I think that this will give them clarity in their head of, hey, if I ever miss a step, or if I ever like forget what's next, at least I can go back and check on this.
Right.
So definitely that's so. All right. So systematizing sales and sales process, follow-up process. That's another one. That's great. What else is in there?
So at that point, at that stage, if somebody's marketing systems and sales systems are dialed in, they should be able to get to at least a 1 deal per week run rate. That's the first milestone that we shoot for when a client starts working with us, is let's get to a 1 deal per week consistently. Because at that point, now we've got consistent cash flow coming into the business. Now we've got profitability. We should have profitability in the business. And at this point, now we can start investing into our team. So the way that this hierarchy looks like, it's like we've got to get the foundation laid, which is marketing and sales systems, which creates profitability. Marketing and sales systems should get us to a deal per week, which creates profitability in the company. Once we're at, you know, that stage, 1, maybe 2 deals a week, at this point, that allows us to have the profitability to start investing into the team. So my belief, like one of the ways that I scaled so quickly is I got out of the operation seats. I got out of the frontline operation seats within 8 months. So within 8 months, I was out of every frontline operating seat, meaning I had lead generation hired out. I had lead management hired out. I had acquisitions hired out. I had transaction coordinating hired out, and I had dispositions hired out. So those are the frontline operation seats, because if we're still operating in those seats, we're in the weeds, and it's really hard to work on the business when you're sitting in the weeds inside the company. That's why with our process, with our formula, we got to get to 1 deal per week. And usually, you know, before that point, before the 1 deal per week run rate, we're outsourcing lead management as well. So lead generation is the first thing that we outsource, then lead management, so that leads are coming into the business and appointments are being scheduled without the owner having to do any work, without them having to drive the process. So I want leads coming in, I want appointments being set without them having to drive the process. Then that should allow them to get to 1 to 2 deals per week. At that stage, that's usually the time where we want to bring on an acquisition rep.
All right. So at what point do you realize I'm trying way too many marketing channels, or the marketing channel that I've been trying for so many months is just not really giving me the ROI? Because I'm assuming at some point you have to let your clients know, I mean, your students and your clients know, hey, there is something going on with your lead generation and sales system that is just not allowing you to have sales. It's not allowing you to really get deals, even though your first steps will be to get 1 to 2 deals per week. So how do you go about finding out which one they should specifically be focused?
Yeah, that's a great question. You know, for somebody that's working with us, we've done this over 200 times now. We've helped over 200 investors scale to, multiple 6 and 7 figures now. So we've got a ton of data as to what works right now in this industry. So all the marketing channels. So I know if somebody's in, this type of market and they've got this type of skill set, this kind of budget, I know pretty well what they should be spending to acquire a deal with each marketing channel. So when somebody comes on board, the first thing that we do is we do an audit on their business and we look at where are they spending money right now, what marketing channels are they utilizing, and usually if they're at less than 1 or 2 deals a week, they don't need to be utilizing more than 2 marketing channels. That's my opinion. Usually they don't need to be able to do 2 deals per week. So if somebody's doing more than 2 marketing channels, a lot of the times that marketing budget is not as productive as it could be. So that's my rule of thumb. If somebody's doing less than 1 or 2 deals a week, they don't need to really be spending money on more than 2 marketing channels, because I want, like I mentioned at the beginning of this interview, I want to create the most efficient path to being able to scale the business. Well, if we are pouring money into marketing, I want those marketing dollars to go as far as possible to create as high of an ROI as possible. So I'm looking for where can we invest this money to get the highest ROI possible, and let's scale those 2 marketing channels as aggressively as we can to get to a deal per week run rate and then 2 deal per week run rate. Because at that point, now I've got consistency in the business. So now I can start to really build out the team. But so your question was like, how do we identify? Well, I have a rule of thumb. Like if you're doing less than a deal per week, you don't need more than 2 marketing channels. And I want to see each marketing channel producing an ROI, return on investment, of at least a 5x return on investment. So you put $1 in, you get $5 back. 1,000 in, you get $5,000 back. 2,000 in, 10,000 back. So that's my minimum KPI for the marketing department. So first we got to see, are we healthy? If we're healthy, let's scale those channels as aggressively as possible.
So if, considering that this industry has a lot of different sales cycles in terms of the length, some deals are closed within 2 weeks. Some deals are closed within months.
Yeah.
And 3 months, 4 months, whatever that is. So how predictable, or what will be your rule or formula in order to find out the true ROI of the channel that you have? Because some channels may require you to follow up more on the leads. Some channels bring in hotter deals. So how do you go about that?
Yeah, that's a great question. So one of the things that I look at is like cost per contract. So there's cost per contract, cost per closed deal. Cost per contract's a great a great indicator to track, because that shows us like, you know, money in, how much money does it cost to get a contract. So we're looking at, because I've seen so many different metrics, you know, I know with each marketing channel approximately how much somebody should spend in order to get one contract. So we're looking at those metrics. And, you know, one of your like, as far as that question goes, like, for instance, with cold calling, it may require a little bit more nurturing to get a deal. Sometimes it can take, on average, 90 days to get from the first point of contact to getting a contract signed. And is that what you're referring to?
That's right. Yeah. Something like that.
Yeah. So, you know, we start people off on channels where, like, if they put in enough volume, they should scoop up some low-hanging fruit. Now, that's not where most of the deals are going to come from. Most of the deals are going to come from nurturing the leads, but we should get some low-hanging fruit from putting in a certain amount of volume. And we have different metrics for each marketing channel. So, you know, one of the big things that we advocate is starting off with enough volume to where we know within 30 days they should be getting a contract if they hit that kind of volume.
Right. Okay.
And then ongoingly, you know, usually you got to give, if you're putting in proper volume, if you're putting in a proper amount of volume, you got to give a marketing channel about 90 days at least to be able to see, are we starting to get traction here or not? Some people say 6 months. I can tell, I think that we can tell before that a lot of times, because if we're spending a certain amount, usually we're going to start seeing contracts within 90 days. So there are some channels that just have a slower turnaround time. Like, for instance, sometimes with, you know, maybe like TV or PPC, in some cases, you can get like a couple of deals and the ROI over the course of a year is still above 5x. It's just the deals are fewer and far between.
Right.
You don't get as high of a volume of deals from certain channels.
So sometimes let's talk about, like, some of that ROI is I think can be categorized as compounded ROI, like from compounded contracts or leads that you're consistently following up and everything. In your program in REI Game Changers, I'm assuming that there is some sort of formula or way to really discover what's that projected ROI of the current efforts that is happening, to tell within those first 3 months, 6 months, that you say this is something that makes sense. If doesn't make sense, like, we should knock that off, right? Is that something you guys currently have? I believe I try to build this. I actually built this type of formula. It's just an Excel of, like, talks about compound ROI. How, for example, about 1 to 3% of the population will buy from you, like, in the first month, and then the rest, there is a percentage of that on top of that population that will be compounded over time, that will increase your deal size. I mean, your deal volume, it will increase over time. So is this something that you guys do with your students, clients, members?
Yeah, it's hard to, the thing is, it's hard to get that down to an exact science to where it's like super predictable. You know, we do have general rule of thumb as far as, you know, typically with cold calling, you're going to see a compound effect. For instance, like, the longer that you do it, usually the more deals you're going to get. So we don't have it down to like an exact science, though, just because there's so many variables that affect that. You know, there's so many variables, and, you know, with a program like ours, it would be hard to predict that many variables. I think to really put it down to like where it's formulated in a spreadsheet, it would just be a lot of variables to predict.
So I'll also, so people that start closing more than 5 deals, all the way 10 deals per month. I believe a lot of these people struggle in one thing, and that is always being that person that their team go to in the operation side, inside of the business, and they depend on this person, or they just can't get out of the day to day, even if they have to manage lead gen or transactions or the VAs or whatever that is. So for those people that are listening and they're kind of like in a good level, and they would need some help in getting out that level, but they just don't know how, or like it's just very difficult. They tried hiring team leaders, operations managers, or whatever that is. Like, can you just walk me through some examples, case studies, or situations that how you've been able to help these people?
Yeah, so that's always going to be the challenge whenever it comes to scaling, is people. You know, once you get yourself removed now, so like our scaling sequence is like we go from, you know, a solo operator to one big team to then trying to create team of teams. And going from one big team to a team of teams is extremely challenging because you got to find people who can actually make decisions inside of your company that's not you. Usually what I've found to be the best way to do that is to raise people up from within your organization. So looking for those people, like in lead management, for example, like you have a lead manager who's really excelling. They show up full on every day and they're going above and beyond to do a great job. They're a great culture fit. And you see the potential in them for them to become a team lead in that department, because you got to have somebody that's being raised up to be able to hold the people accountable in that department. That's not you, because one person can only effectively manage about 6 people at a time. Approximately 8 is the absolute most that one person can manage effectively at a time. So we've got to raise up and train other leaders within the organization. And usually what I found best is to raise people up internally within the, so it's like find a lead manager and then you start pouring into them, start allowing them to do call reviews with the team, do training with them, and just test the waters with them. And then you can kind of like let out the rope a little bit at a time to see, can this person really lead? Can this person make the right decisions? And we have to give people the freedom to make mistakes as well. You know, we didn't get to where we're at as leaders in a company without making mistakes. So I think a big mistake that a lot of people make is that they don't actually give people the freedom to make mistakes, to be able to grow as a leader inside the company. And we have to give people that freedom to make mistakes. So, you know, that's a glimpse, but like Alex and Victor have done this, you know, since we've been talking about them, like they've done this with several of their departments where they recognize some big talent. They recognize somebody who's going above and beyond. They recognize somebody who is really taking charge within the team, and they'll start pouring in to that person. And they've done this within their acquisitions department recently, where they have like an acquisitions manager now. And they pretty much followed that process, start giving them a little bit of rope at a time and seeing how they take it. How do the other team members respond to them? Allowing them to start sitting in the leadership team meetings, and what kind of feedback am I receiving from this team member? And a lot of times I'll be listening in and I'll ask questions. So when we're in a situation where a decision has to be made, I will just ask questions. Hey, what do you think? What do you think we should do here? And I already know like what I think what I think we should do, but I will ask those people, what do you think we should do? To give them the space to actually think and develop those muscles that are required to lead in a department. And that's one of the best things. Like if I'm trying to cultivate a leader, I will ask them what we should do in situations. Now I'm there as the bumper to make sure that we don't like go off the tracks, but I have to give them the freedom to actually think and develop that muscle.
So I think a lot of people really just they actually would wait for so long to do the proper hires or just to do the proper races in their company that perhaps it lets people in their organization leave or just not think that there is a room for growth in their organization, and they're always like in this constant like this guy stayed for a few months or a year or something like that, and I didn't hire thinking of growth, didn't raise up this person. Now I have to look for another person. So how fast and what's your recommendation? How fast people should hire? How fast, how slow or fast people should really fire as well and change people out?
Yeah, there's a lot in this question, and I don't know if there's an exact science to it, but as far as like how fast to hire people, I think that we've got to have the profitability. So we've got to have consistency with deal flow. We've got to be able to support them financially. Like if you just close one deal ever, you may not need to be hiring people. Let's get like some more consistency built up and established in the business. So I want to see consistency of deal flow first to make sure that we've got a proof of concept when we're initially hiring. And then once I've got a proof of concept, I want to make sure that I've got a documented process that this person's going to be able to plug into. If I don't, then they're going to come on board. And one of the reasons why people leave companies is actually because they're a lot of times they're not onboarded properly. And like we do a poor job onboarding, we do a poor job training that person. And I know initially when I started to onboard people, I had very poor training. I had very poor communication, feedback loops with the employee whenever they came on. But I think most people, they just don't have a system to actually onboard people and train them well. So I want to make sure we got consistency established. I want to make sure that we've got a documented SOP that somebody's going to plug into. And then I want consistent feedback with that person. I think that you can hire somebody, like if you've got the systems already down, like you've got a proof of concept across the board. You got that system documented. You've got enough profitability to where you can afford to hire a person. Then you don't have to wait for a certain amount of time. Like I hired a lead manager super early on in the company. I think I had closed a couple of deals at that time when I hired a lead manager. So it wasn't like I was super far down the road. And then hired an acquisition rep, I think 4 or 5 months in. So I had a proof of concept. We had a good deal flow. We had consistency around the deal volume, and was able to hire an acquisition rep because I knew that I would be able to support that person. So that's an important thing. We got to be able to support the people we're going to bring on.
That's pretty awesome. I think that hiring itself, like people inside of your organization, it's like you got to take it as if you're also getting clients that require nurturing, require retention. They require to be fulfilled properly, onboarded properly, which is mostly the way that you should be doing. Like if you have a brick and mortar business, or people have done brick and mortar, or either online business or just whatever education business, you know how important onboarding is,
right?
How important onboarding is, and being able to work on that retention, right? To like have the most talented people stay in, or in this case, like for example, the highest paying client or on longest lifetime value clients in your organization. So I think it's the same thing. Like in how you find clients, how also you find team members and how you keep them as well. Yeah. So it's huge. So if people are doing a lot of deals, man, they still will go to you, and they'll still get the right type of guidance from that Frank Kern lessons as well, from everything you've learned in your, in your business, in your coaching education type of experience that you currently have. Is that right? Like people doing a lot of deals, they just go there and it'll be just a game changer.
Yeah, I mean, we work with people all the way from people who are trying to get their first deal, all the way to people who are doing $400,000 a month. So every one of my coaches, mentors right now is at 8-figure level. So there's a ton of knowledge and wisdom that I've gleaned from working with super high level businesses inside the real estate industry, building my own multiple 7-figure real estate company. There's very few people, unless they're like above $500,000 a month, that we could not help, because the way that we work, we help people optimize across the board. We help people cut what's not working, optimize their systems, their processes, their marketing. A lot of times people are leaving so much money on the table with their marketing. They're so short-sighted with their marketing, and just following something that they picked up in a mastermind. And that's the way that they've been doing it for so long. And most of the time people can get a pretty big upgrade in their marketing processes when they start working with us. So, but not only that, but it's also like this past weekend, I had my legacy event with our top clients. I did an entire training on culture, team communication. And it was extremely high level training that in the long run is what's going to take somebody from $1 million to 5 or 10 million is really what the team is all about. Because to go from $1 million to 5 or 10, it's all about team. It's all about the team members and how you cultivate them, and the type of culture and environment that you create within your organization, and the type of standards that you uphold inside your company. That's really what's going to take you to the top. So we train all across the board.
So in your businesses, James, you were you were a partner. Like you had partners in both of your businesses, right?
So I actually do not have a partner right now.
Oh, you don't have a partner right now.
Yeah.
What about when you were doing this wholesaling full time? Did you have a partner then?
Yeah. So when I was building the wholesaling company, I did have a partner initially. So I did have a partner. We separated a little while back, but at this point in time, I do not. Yeah.
Okay. Do you think that for people that are solo might be a little bit more challenging, or requires a little bit more effort than for people that are just partnered up with someone else, splitting everything 50-50?
So, it's a really good question. I think that my perspective on partnerships has evolved because I've been through one and I've separated. And I think that, initially it was helpful because we could do different functions of the business, but the challenge, like we ran into a challenge once we got ourselves removed from the operation seats. So I think that a lot of the times people initially they'll get into a partnership because they don't want to try to build the business by themselves, but they're not really thinking long term. They're not really like thinking down the road, what happens when we get out of the operation seats? What are our roles going to be? What are our lanes going to be? And that's the situation that my former partner and I found ourselves in, is we really weren't thinking long term, like, who's going to be the CEO? There can only be one CEO of a company. There can only be one visionary of a company. And if both people are wired as a visionary, that's going to be a problem when you get yourselves out of the operation seats. So I think that, and also when it comes to partnerships, if somebody has a partner and they're 50-50 and they're doing $100,000 a month as a partnership, it's really the same thing as far as the business owners are concerned as if they were doing $50,000 a month by themselves. You literally have to make twice as much money as a partnership to be able to make that same kind of personal money for the owners. You have to make twice as much money. So a lot of the times people don't need a partner. They may need to outsource lead generation. They may need to outsource certain activities in the company, but a lot of the times they don't really need a partner. I think the best partnerships, the best type of partnerships are a visionary integrator partnership, that kind of dynamic. Or if somebody had like the only partnerships that really last are the ones where the partners have totally different lanes and skill sets that they operate in. They've got totally different things that they bring to the table. The best type of partnership, I think, is a visionary integrator relationship, a CEO, COO dynamic, because they're never going to be operating in the same lanes. They're never going to operate in the same lanes. And both are absolutely necessary to be able to grow a business.
I think that's definitely a huge lesson for people that, you know, they try to join someone else at the beginning, or maybe when they're struggling.
Yeah.
And they you know, they do it with the wrong person because they're not looking like further ahead. What's going to happen when everything is autopiloted? Like, what's going to be really the goal? Like,
right.
Were you thinking about selling the business? Were you thinking about living your life in Alaska in a nomad place? I don't know. Like, those are things that, or you know, starting a coaching business. Those are things that will hurt in the long run, and that's why partnerships, I believe, they end up splitting up as well.
A lot of the times they do, and it's because people don't think long term. They don't have a long term vision for what they're trying to do. They're just thinking, hey, it sucks doing all the work myself right now. In the short term, it would be great if I had somebody who was doing some of these responsibilities, and then they give them half the equity in their company to take on some of these responsibilities that they could have outsourced to somebody else and paid them an hourly rate, or paid them just a commission on a deal to take on some of these responsibilities, instead of giving over half the company to somebody just because you don't want to run alone.
Right.
Yeah. So it's just, you know, I've seen so many partnerships come to that place, because once you're out of the operation seats, if you're both wired as a visionary, and there's a great visionary integrator test that Rocket Fuel, the creators of Rocket Fuel, they have an online test that you can take to see how are you wired naturally. Are you wired as a visionary? Are you wired as an integrator? Because if you have two visionaries that partner up, it's a recipe for disaster long term.
Right. I think that that for people that are considering at some point, you know, joining someone else, that you have to like read that book, Rocket Fuel, make the other person take the test. If you're really considering like a partnership to, like, you know, trying to delegate it, or like put someone in a high level operations because you hate operations, well, to make sure that you also vet this person and give them a 90-day handshake to see if even it remotely makes sense, but talk about like what's happening after everything is autopilot.
Right. Exactly. You have to have that discussion. What's going to happen after we hire out all the frontline seats? Who's going to be doing what? Who's going to be the CEO? Who's going to be the visionary of the company? Because there can only be one vision, one visionary in a company. And I didn't make this stuff up, guys. I didn't make this stuff up. Look at McDonald's, look at Amazon. Like, how many CEOs are in any of the largest companies in the world? There's one CEO. There's one COO in all of these companies. And if you look at the top of the top, you'll see how they operate and how they think. So I didn't create this stuff. This was stuff that I was actually told earlier on in business, didn't listen, and then it came to bite me in the rear later on.
Yeah. So this whole coaching business, I've seen you with another person. Is that your secondary main coach, or who's that person?
So I do have a coach. I used to have a partner, but we separated a little while back. So, but we do have multiple coaches inside of the company.
All right. So tell me more about the current coaching program, or just the coaching modules that you have. Um, how does it look like in a day-to-day, week-to-week basis? I love to learn a bit more about that.
Yeah, so we have different tiers of programs, and it really depends on what level the person is at. So if somebody's brand new, they're trying to get their first deal, we have a program that's called Catalyst that's really designed to help people get their first deal as fast as possible. The average time that it takes somebody when they join the Catalyst program is 2 to 4 weeks to get their first deal. We have customized paths. So one of the things that makes us unique is we have customized paths that customized marketing paths based off of what that person's budget is. If they're just getting started, so if they've got, you know, whatever their budget is, we've got a customized path that we send this person on as far as the marketing systems that they're going to be deploying. It's not a cookie cutter system. A lot of times in programs that people join, it's like, hey, here's one thing that we're going to teach somebody. Here's the way that here's like one specialty thing that we're going to teach them. That's not how we're operating. We're all about what's the best thing for you to do right now that's going to be the fastest path to getting you to your goal. So whether it's in our Catalyst program and then the next level up is our acceleration program, this program is designed only for people who are actually doing deals already. And in this program, this is an extremely intensive program. We build out a completely customized marketing plan for people. We have several opportunities where they get on coaching calls throughout the week with us, where we are training them on each aspect of the business. And then, you know, the entire focus of this program is we're seeing all the ins and outs of their business, and we are helping them make decisions as fast as possible. We keep an extremely tight feedback loop with them so that we get them to that first milestone of a deal per week as fast as possible, then 2 deals per week after that. But it's really a customized plan built. So we customize the marketing plan to get them to that first milestone of a deal per week. And then from there, 2 deals per week. And it's one of the most hands-on, intensive programs that I've ever seen in the real estate market. And I designed it that way on purpose, is because I designed it because I had been through all these real estate programs, and I didn't feel like I was getting the type of attention and support that I wanted. So I created this program to basically create what I wish I would have had.
What do you mean intensive?
Meaning like we actually require everybody to track KPIs. We see every number within their business. We're very hands-on. We have a ton of different touch points that we maintain throughout the program. We've got a lot of one-on-one support inside the program, multiple coaching calls throughout the week, several coaching calls throughout the week. So the level of support that somebody can get is top notch. Like they should never ever have a time where they have a question or they have a problem that they cannot get the answer to, because their feedback loop is extremely tight inside of our program. It's one of the ways that our clients see such quick growth, is because when they have a problem, there's an immediate response, immediate answer. We can help people move through the problem solving cycles really quickly. And then, you know, our marketing plans is really one of the big things that differentiates it, because we're building out a customized plan and solution for the client that's specific to them and what their goals are. And it does not look the same for each client. It's not, hey, you join this program, here's what I do in my business. That's not the way that we've done it. We prescribe what's going to be best for them and what's going to be the most efficient path to getting them to their goals.
That's great. So you also help them actually building these automated systems that can track KPIs, or is this more like outsourced thing that they will need help for? If someone wants to build their KPIs, do you help them with it, or you redirect them to people?
No, we help them with that. Yeah.
Okay. Any CRM, any system that people use, regardless of Podio, Salesforce, whatever that is that they're using?
Yeah, we don't really have like a standard CRM that we are promoting. People have different CRMs that they use, whether it be, the most recent one for me has been Left Main Salesforce build out. But we have people using Podio. We've got people using REI Black Book, Investor Fuse, a handful of CRMs.
Okay. Sounds good, man. Well, it sounds pretty good, man. I definitely like you to come maybe on a part 2 in the future and be able to like really smash on different other areas that help people truly understand like how potentially ROI, really measuring ROI is what is the most important thing, and different other tactics about growing the business, or just mindset and mental thing like you were saying. Really would love for you to cover that in a second episode. But if people want to actually just reach out to you, send you a message, book an appointment with you, whatever that is, or with your team, where people can find you.
Yeah, people can go to reigamechangers.com. reigamechangers.com. It's pretty simple. They can book a call with my team at reigamechangers.com. I'm also on social media. You can find me on Instagram at the real James Hodges. Shoot me a message on there. At the real James Hodges on Instagram. I've got a Facebook group as well that is REI Game Changers for wholesalers and house flippers. You can find me on there, but reach out to me. I'm happy to talk with anybody who reaches out, and shoot me a message.
What's the name of the Facebook group again?
REI Game Changers for wholesalers and house flippers.
Perfect. REI Game Changers. If you're watching this in YouTube or in video, you will see for wholesalers and house flippers. I'm putting it in here.
Yeah, and they can join the group, and they'll see a lot of my trainings and stuff that we've got inside the group. But you just stream the group name at the bottom, so that's our Facebook group. But yeah, you can shoot me a personal message as well on Instagram if you want, at the real James Hodges on Instagram, or just go to our website, reigamechangers.com.
Perfect. Thank you so much, James, man. Thank you for being here, and I'd love to have you in the second episode.
Absolutely, man. Love to do it.
All right, man. Take care. Have a good one.
All right. God bless. Have a good one.
Thank you, everyone, for listening to this show. And remember, everything I just would like from you is that you can share this with everyone in your circle, community, Facebook groups, Instagram, whatever. Share this on Spotify. Share this in Apple Music, Audible, whatever you're listening to. That's everything that I would like for you to do. Thanks.